Did you know that what destroys us the most sometimes doesn't come from our enemies, but from the very people we have forgiven too many times? And what is more dangerous than pain is giving another chance to the person who broke us. Just because we are afraid of being judged as petty, narrow-minded, and unforgiving, we are taught that forgiveness is noble. It heals. It is a good thing to do. But no one tells us that forgiving the wrong person can ruin your life. There are people who don't need your forgiveness. They need you to forget your kindness, so they can make the same mistake again, on you. Forgiveness is not an obligation. Forgiveness is a choice, and not everyone deserves that gift. Stoicism, the philosophy of strong and conscious people, teaches us how to control our emotions and stay calm in the face of adversity. But it never teaches us to be soft-hearted towards those who have betrayed us. They do not hold grudges, but they also do not give the person who has shed their blood another chance to pick up a knife again. No one is forcing you to be tough, but if you continue to open yourself up to people who don't appreciate it, you are contributing to the betrayal in your life. Sometimes, not forgiving is the ultimate act of self-love. You have the right to let go. You have the right to say, enough. You have the right to move on without having to carry the people who have weighed you down. I'm not saying that everyone who makes a mistake is bad. I'm not advocating resentment or revenge. But I do believe that forgiveness has conditions, and most importantly, limits. Forgiveness isn't about holding them back. It's about letting go. Lighter. Today, I invite you to look directly at 10 behaviors that if someone has done to you, you absolutely should not forgive. Not because you are cruel, but because you are sober enough to understand. Respecting yourself is more important than keeping toxic relationships. Don't let your kindness be taken advantage of again. And if you're ready, here we go. You can forgive a careless word. You can forgive an unkind look. But there is one thing, once betrayed, that can never be the same again. That is faith. No relationship, be it friendship, family or love, can survive without this. Trust is like glass. Once broken, you can patch it, but the crack will always be there. And if the person holding the hammer is the person you once loved, holding the glass will only make your hand bleed. Imagine you have shared with someone the most intimate part of your life. A pain you never dared to say out loud. A secret you only dared to whisper into the void. But then, one day, you hear those very words echoing from someone else's mouth. Not from you, but from that person. And when you confront them, they just smile faintly. I didn't mean it, it just slipped out. Don't believe it, because the person who slips up is usually the one who has made a choice. They pick your story to become the topic of entertainment in gossip. They choose to betray you, not keep their word. It was not an oversight. It was deliberate betrayal. Stoicism does not teach us to hold grudges, but it also does not advise us to give a second chance to someone who has broken our trust. Because that is not kindness, it is disrespect for ourselves. Trust, once betrayed, will no longer be a place you can return to with peace of mind. You will always have to doubt, always be on guard, and your heart will never be at peace again. How would you live if every time you trusted someone, you had to worry, will I be made fun of again this time? Don't forgive anyone who breaks the trust you spent your whole life giving. And then, there is an even more dangerous kind of betrayal. It's when people laugh in your face, but stab you in the back when you're not around. They are people who appear friendly when you meet them. Greet them cheerfully. Pat them on the shoulder warmly. But behind your back, they distort what you say, fabricate stories that never existed, and sow doubt in the relationships around you. That kind of person is not your friend. It is the enemy, but disguised as an acquaintance. Don't judge a relationship by its surface level. Judge it by how they talk about you when you're not there. If someone speaks ill of you once, they will speak ill of you twice. If they stab you in the back and you keep them, it's not that they're wrong, it's that you're allowing the betrayal to continue systematically. There are knife wounds that are not visible to the naked eye, but you feel it every time you stand in a crowd and feel uneasy. Every time someone looks at you with a strange look, and you don't understand why. Because you trust the wrong person, you accidentally surrender your honor to someone else's mouth. Learn to retreat, not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough not to keep a backstabber in your arms. Betrayal of trust is never a small mistake. It's something that can break you from the inside out and leave you doubting for the rest of your life. If someone ever does that to you, don't take revenge. Don't hate them either, but walk away and don't look back. There is one thing I believe everyone has experienced, to a greater or lesser extent, the feeling of losing trust in someone you thought would never hurt you. And you know what hurts the most? It's not a loss. It's when you have to face the truth. The person who hurt you was the person you trusted the most. You can overlook a careless word, an inadvertent action, or even a missed appointment. But there is a line, and when someone crosses it, they don't just hurt you, they shatter your entire outlook on life. That's when they betray your trust. Trust is not a gift that comes easily. It is something that takes time to build. Little by little, it is when you allow someone into your inner world, into your vulnerabilities, into your weaknesses, into the things you are afraid to share with anyone else. And when they use that to hurt you, it is no longer a mistake. It is a deliberate betrayal. Imagine you once opened up to someone, told them the things that kept you up at night for months, memories you never dared to face alone. Then one day, you heard your own story from someone else's mouth, not from you, but from the person you once called your best friend. That person, with a calm, guilt-free demeanor, just shrugged and said, "I didn't mean it. I just mentioned it." But you know very well, no one would say things they know are important to you. No one would slip up with the things you once entrusted with all your heart. Betrayal of trust is never an accident. It is a choice, and you should not forgive someone who chooses the benefit, pleasure, or attention of others over choosing to protect you. Stoicism doesn't teach you to live with hatred, but it does teach you not to give a second chance to someone who has stabbed you in the back. Not because you hold grudges, but because you respect yourself, and don't want to live in a world where you have to be wary of the people you once called close. I once heard someone say, "A relationship without trust is just a shell," and I completely agree. You can't call someone a friend, a relative, if every time you take your eyes off them, you feel insecure. If every time they open their mouth, you don't know what's real and what's made up. And what's even scarier is the kind of person who always appears nice when you're face to face, but is the first to stab you in the back when you're not around. They smile at you, ask you how you're doing, But behind that are gossip, slanderous statements, distorted information, all said when you're helpless to defend yourself. Such people are not friends. They are enemies, but wearing familiar clothes. Forgiving them is allowing the betrayal to be repeated systematically. You cannot expect loyalty from someone who once smiled to your face and stabbed you in the back just to get attention or benefits for themselves. There is a saying that I always remember: if someone talks behind your back once, it might be a weakness. But if they do it a second time, and you still keep them, it is no longer their fault. We have the right to be tolerant, but tolerance does not mean blindness. It does not mean continuing to hold on to people who make us doubt our own intuition. To live in a world where trust is stolen is to live in a constant state of defense. And no one can live in peace with a heart that is always wearing armor. If you're holding on to someone who has revealed your secrets, talked behind your back, or broken the trust you built, it's time to stop and ask, am I forgiving them because they deserve it, or because I'm afraid of the loneliness of letting go of a toxic relationship? Forgiveness without change is not healing, it is surrender. And when you forgive the wrong person, you are not only betraying yourself, you are helping to set up the betrayal again. Remember, the Stoics did not hold grudges, but they did not let traitors stay in their lives either. You deserve relationships where your words are kept sacred, and you deserve peace more than living with suspicion and defense. If someone has betrayed your trust, don't give them a second chance. Close that door and move on, not because you're cold, but because you're starting to love yourself again, consciously and respectfully. There are wounds that don't bleed, but leave your self-esteem forever scarred. You can withstand pressure, overcome failure, even endure loneliness, but when your personal values are insulted, when your self-esteem is trampled in front of others, you will feel small, hurt and angry, even if you try to appear calm. Someone who humiliates you in public, even once, has revealed their true character. Because no one humiliates another person by accident. No one slips the tongue and makes a fool of you in front of a crowd. It's not just words, it's a destructive action designed to make you feel inferior, ashamed, and insecure right where you should be. Have you ever been in the middle of a meeting, a party, or a group of friends when someone makes a joke about one of your flaws, and then everyone bursts out laughing? And you're left speechless, not knowing whether to laugh along or quietly walk away. That moment, even if it only lasts a few seconds, can leave a deep emotional scar. And what's even more painful is when the person who offended you justifies it with things like, "I was just joking," or "Don't be so sensitive." But the truth is, self-esteem is not for others to play with. Stoics don't need crowds to applaud, but they do maintain a line of dignity that cannot be crossed. And when someone crosses that line to make you feel small, you don't need to get angry, but you do need to walk away. No one has the right to make you feel like a whore just because they want attention, want to look smart, or want a laugh. That's not humor, that's cruelty wrapped in a smile. And then there are those who don't hurt you with public humiliation. They do it by crushing your dreams, bit by bit, in the name of truth. When you share something that excites you, like an idea you have, a dream you've been holding on to, something you believe could change your life, they're the first to say, "Come on, Man, that's not for you. Be realistic. Stop dreaming. It sounds like they care. It sounds like they're trying to keep you sane. But really, it's their way of killing the seed of hope in you before it even sprouts. Someone who intentionally tries to make you stop believing in yourself is not someone who loves you. It is someone who can't stand to see you grow, to see you step out of your comfort zone, to see you dare to do things they never had the courage to try. They don't crush your dreams because they care. They do it because your dreams make them feel smaller. The Stoics understood that life is a journey of continuous growth. And to grow, you need to have dreams big enough to make you strive every day. If someone belittles what you're trying to do, mocks your desire, or dismisses your efforts as a joke, you don't owe them any presence in your life. You don't need to keep people who make you doubt your self-worth. You don't need to explain your dreams to people who don't have the vision to understand. And you don't have to put up with humiliation from anyone, just to keep the peace. Peace is not worth self-respect, and staying in a relationship that makes you smaller every day is a betrayal of who you could be. If someone ever humiliates you in public, back off. If someone tries to make you lose faith in your dreams, walk away. No need for fuss, no need for retaliation. Just silently withdraw from their lives. Like a person who clearly understands where a place is not worthy of his dignity. Not forgiving it doesn't mean you're evil. It means you have grown up. There are people who don't hurt you by attacking or criticizing you. They do it by taking advantage of your kindness. At first, you won't notice, because they always act cute, need you, cherish you, but then you notice. They only appear when they need something. And when you're tired, when you need someone to lean on, they disappear without a trace. You start to feel like an emotional gas station, a place they stop by when they're low on energy, when they're frustrated, when they need someone to vent to, and after they've recharged, they turn around and walk away, without a word of thanks. At first, you make excuses. They must have been busy. They probably didn't notice, etc. But over time, you realize, it's not an oversight. It's a pattern, a cycle, a way of being that only knows how to take away without ever giving back. And if you're not conscious, you'll continue to let it happen, out of fear of losing a relationship, out of not wanting to be seen as selfish, out of the idea that you should continue to be nice to others. But Stoicism teaches you something important. True friendship doesn't come from dependence. It comes from companionship. If one person is only giving and the other is only taking, then it's not kindness, it's exploitation wrapped in a mask of intimacy. Take a look back. In times of crisis, who stayed when you needed someone to listen? Who was really there? If people always demand your presence, but disappear every time you need them, are you in a healthy relationship? Kindness is not an endless resource. It needs to be recharged with gratitude, caring, and genuine sharing. Otherwise, kindness becomes prey to those who only think of their own interests. And worse, many people don't just take advantage of you, they make promises to keep you around, but never keep those promises. Have you ever heard someone say, "I will call you back. I will help you with that soon. I will definitely be there that day." And then, they didn't come. They didn't call. They didn't show up. At first you think it's okay. Who hasn't forgotten? But then you see, time and time again, promises, then no longer kept, promises, then disappears, promises, as if words are worthless. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Do not believe in something that has never happened. A promise, without action, means nothing. And when a promise becomes something used to manipulate you emotionally, to keep you in the relationship, to keep you hoping, it's no longer heartless. It's a subtle betrayal. Betrayal is not always a stab in the back. Sometimes, it's about constantly sowing hope and then silently crushing it." The Stoics understood, speech is a reflection of character. A man of his word is a trustworthy man. A person who makes promises for fun is someone who is ready to disappoint you at any time. And if you keep believing in them, giving them another chance, hoping they will be different this time, then you are no longer being betrayed by them, you are betraying yourself. Don't be afraid to stop. Don't be afraid to walk away from a one-sided relationship. You were not born to be a tool for someone to satisfy their personal needs and then leave. You are under no obligation to continue being nice to someone who only takes advantage of that kindness. Let's face it, if someone only comes to you when they need you, if they promise but never do, if you are always the only one trying to keep that connection, then you are in a kind of voluntary emotional slavery. And it's time for you to be free. Friendship, love, or any relationship, it all requires give and take. It doesn't always have to be equal, but it should be give and take. The Stoics did not demand absolute justice, but they knew, where there is no respect, there is no place for their presence. If you have given someone a chance, look at their actions to decide whether to give it again. And if your kindness is being taken advantage of, learn to say no. Not because you changed, but because you grew up and learned to appreciate yourself more. There is a kind of hurt so subtle that many people don't even realize they're the victim. There is no screaming, no loud breakdowns, no direct insults, but the guilt, the feeling that you are always wrong, always lacking, always having to do more to be loved, just keeps growing inside you. Have you ever been in a situation where, just because you said no, the other person started to ignore you? They pretended to be disappointed. They didn't directly blame you, but it was enough to make you feel guilty and remorseful. And then, you started to ask yourself, am I being too selfish? I should have tried a little harder. If I had known, I would have agreed instead of letting the atmosphere be this uncomfortable. If you have ever experienced that feeling, then you have been subjected to emotional manipulation, one of the most dangerous forms of psychological control. Manipulation doesn't have to be cruel. It just takes a little seed of self-consciousness to plant in your mind. And then you torture yourself with guilt. And ironically, the manipulator is often seen as the one to be pitied. The victim, the one who just needed a little more of you. They know exactly how to make you yield, not by force, but by a sad look, a half-reproachful, half-repentant tone, or a long silence. These actions are designed to soften you, to make you turn around and say, "Okay, I'll do as you say." But the truth is, when you have to apologize for setting boundaries, you're no longer living for yourself. You're living by someone else's standards. You're no longer operating according to your own values, but according to their expectations. Stoicism teaches us one thing very clearly: you have no control over other people. But you have complete control over your boundaries. The Stoics were not indifferent, nor were they cruel, but they were rational enough to understand: consent that is not voluntary is not kindness. It is submission out of fear of abandonment. If someone truly loves you, they will respect your no. They will understand when you need time, when you're not available, when you're putting yourself first, without emotionally binding you to an invisible obligation. And there are also people who don't need emotional manipulation. They simply always demand, always expect, always ask, but never give back. Have you ever been in a relationship where you were always the one who took the initiative? The one who asked, the one who helped, the one who held on every time the distance grew. And if you stopped trying, the relationship would just fall apart? A one-sided relationship is not only unfair, it also eats away at your self-esteem. Because you start to believe that if you just try a little harder, everything will be okay, but it never happens, because the other person has never taken a single step towards you. Friendship, love, or any connection between people, it all needs to be reciprocal. It doesn't need to be exact. It doesn't need to be measured. But it does need to be active from both sides. The Stoic does not blame life for being unfair, but they are rational enough to realize: where there is no reciprocity, there is no respect. And once respect is gone, the only thing that keeps you around is the illusion that you need to do something to prove your worth. You don't have to do anything to be treated kindly. You don't have to prove your kindness. You are not someone's healing tool. You are a human being, limited, emotional, and deserving of proper love. If someone makes you feel like you have to be useful to be loved, then the relationship is fundamentally wrong. It's not a relationship. It's not love. It's a dependency disguised as emotion. You may have been manipulated. You may have been turned into a tool to serve other people's emotions. But you absolutely have the right to opt out of that. You have the right to say no. You have the right to hold boundaries. You have the right to love yourself calmly and decisively. Stoics don't get angry when they're taken advantage of. They just shut up and leave. Because they understand: staying in a relationship that doesn't respect your self-worth is betraying yourself. Not everyone who hurts you stabs you with a knife. There are people who make you bleed from the inside with words that seem loving, but are actually silent manipulations that eat away at you every day. Have you ever heard someone say to you, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't have done that. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't choose that"? It sounds reasonable. It even sounds like an emotional reproach, like they're hurting for you. But it's actually a very subtle form of control disguised as love. You start to doubt yourself. You start to think, "Yes, I must be selfish. Maybe I hurt them. I'll just bear with it. Let them be happy." And so you bend yourself to fit the mold they want you to fit. You change the way you talk. You lose your passion. You adjust every little thing you do, not because you want to, but because you're afraid of losing them. But the truth is, you're losing yourself, holding on to a relationship that no longer aligns with your core values. Someone who truly loves you will not ask you to give up who you are to please them. They won't use personal emotions to twist you. They won't let you live in torment, thinking you're the problem. Stoicism teaches us that we can only control our own actions, not the reactions of others. If you live your values and someone feels hurt, then perhaps they are not aligned with the truest version of you. And it's not your fault. Not stopping there. There are people who go further. They hurt you, then turn around and tell you, "You're just too sensitive." Are you upset because they forgot an important date? Come on, you're so upset over such a small thing. Are you hurt by their insults? I was just joking. Why are you so serious? Are you disappointed because they didn't keep their promise? You expect too much. That's not an apology. It is a victim-perpetrator role reversal. They hurt you, then make you believe you are the problem. And if you accept it too many times, you start to believe it. You will apologize for things you did not do wrong. You'll be afraid of bothering, afraid of reacting, afraid of speaking up, because you think, maybe it's because I'm too sensitive. But remember one thing, no one has the right to judge your reaction to the pain they have caused. You feel hurt for good reason. And instead of listening, if someone uses your emotions to attack you, that's no longer a relationship. That's a psychological trap. Stoicism does not encourage hatred, but it's also not acceptable to lie to yourself just to stay in a toxic relationship. Forgiveness in this case is no longer a noble act. It becomes a betrayal of your own self-esteem, because you are continuing to hold on to someone you know well. They will continue to hurt you. They will continue to deny your feelings. And they will continue to make you the one at fault, just because you dared to speak up. Some people never change, not because they can't, but because they don't need to change. Because you have always forgiven, have always been humble, have always come back after every hurt. And if you continue like that, then you are not weak. You just forgot your true worth. Remember this: there is no one in the world worth your self-respect. No one is worth the trouble of trying to please them. No one has the right to make you apologize for the feelings they caused. You have the right to walk. You have the right to keep the most original part of yourself. You have the right to live true to your values, even if it means leaving someone else leave you. Because the right person won't ask you to change to suit them. The right person will love you exactly as you are. Forgiveness is always praised as a noble act. And it is true. When you forgive, you are freeing yourself from the resentment, the anger that eats away at your heart every day. But here is one thing you need to remember. Forgiveness is not an obligation. Forgiveness does not mean letting someone hurt you over and over again. You have the power to forgive, but you also have the power to set limits. Stoics understand this. They don't hold grudges or dwell on the past. But they're not naive either. They don't stay in relationships where they risk their inner peace to keep someone who isn't worth it. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone else permission to keep hurting you, in the name of everyone makes mistakes. Yes, everyone makes mistakes, but when someone keeps hurting you over and over again, it's no longer a mistake, it's a choice. Choices do not respect you. The selection remains unchanged. They choose to hurt you because they know you will forgive them. And if you continue to forgive in silence, you are contributing to the cycle. You are not just being hurt, you are hurting yourself by allowing others to destroy your trust, your self-worth, and your respect for yourself. Forgiveness without change is merely a repetition of pain in a moral guise. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Tolerance does not mean leaving your soul open to being hurt by others." That statement is like a wake-up call, because many of us mistakenly believe that we are being noble when we forgive. But sometimes, that is just our way of holding on to a relationship that is already rotten, out of fear of loss. Out of fear of being alone. Out of fear of being seen as tough. But the truth is, being tough isn't being cruel. Being tough is having the courage to hold on to your inner peace, even if that means letting go of someone you once loved. You don't have to live with bitterness. You don't have to carry hatred. But you have to be principled in forgiveness. Dare to ask questions. Does that person really change? Do they realize their mistake? Are they trying to be a better version of themselves? Not just for you, but for themselves? If the answer is no, then forgiveness is no longer kindness. It is surrender. You were not born to be a place where others can vent their anger, their mistakes, and then come back with empty apologies. You were born to be a valuable human being, with limits, with the right to protect yourself from those who have hurt you. And if someone has pushed you to the brink of pain, you have no obligation to let them stay, only to have them break you again from the same place. Stoicism does not teach you to punish others, but it does teach you to be rational, to maintain your self-respect, and to know how to choose relationships that are worthy of the peace you are trying to create. Learn to forgive, but also learn to let go. Learn not to hold grudges, but also learn not to hold on to what once hurt you. Learn to live with an open heart, but also know when to lock the door, so no one can come in and bring you down again. You deserve a life free from manipulation, betrayal, or lies. You deserve peace without sacrificing your self-respect. And most of all, you deserve forgiveness by yourself, forever giving more than you should have. From today, forgive, but do it with principle, because the person who deserves your forgiveness is the one who will never make you forgive them twice. If you have come this far, it is no longer a coincidence. It is a sign that your mind is ready for a deeper journey, a journey of awakening, understanding, and self-healing. What you have just heard is not an empty theory. It is real-life experience. Lessons that come from depth, not from popularity, but from awareness. Maybe just one small idea in this video resonated with you. If so, don't forget to leave a link to let me know you're on board. And if you want to continue exploring the vital values of Stoic philosophy and inner growth, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the next powerful moves. Thank you for being here. This is not the end, it is the beginning of a stronger, wiser, more resilient version of yourself.